So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new video, and today's a fun one as I've had the opportunity to see the first 5 episodes of Peacemaker Season 2. And you know what that means? These are my no spoilery thoughts and review on the new season, which as we all know by now, is in the DCU. So I'm gonna try and give an overall, as comprehensive as can be, vibe of just, okay, Peacemaker Season 1 was such a pleasant surprise for so many of us back then, and just given how kick-ass it was, how does Season 2 measure up now, especially as it's in the DCU? Also, don't forget that we will, of course, be doing episode breakdowns each and every week as of August 21st, and so if you're brand new here and you like DC content, you are in the right place, so consider subscribing, and I'd also really appreciate a like rating on this video if you do go on to enjoy the review. So first of all here, right out of the gate impressions are that if you enjoyed Season 1, then I would be so hard-pressed to believe that you wouldn't enjoy Season 2. And it's kind of crazy, come to think of it, how long we've waited for this. Like, I've lived where I am right now for 3 years, and Peacemaker Season 1 came out before that in January of 2022, and that kind of shocked me when I realized that again. I was like, wait, really? So after watching these 5 episodes that they gave us over the past couple of days, it just felt like a breeze to me, and honestly just as chaotically entertaining as you would want the show to be. And I would say that's the thing about Peacemaker. Like, remember how after the Suicide Squad, many of us, when we heard that Peacemaker was announced for a series, were kind of like, okay. You know, we may have enjoyed John Cena quite a bit from Gunn's The Suicide Squad movie, and he had quite a profound impact, causing the death of Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag Jr. But really, his own series, you know, at the time, it just kind of felt like a random shot in the dark of a show to make, but when it released, my god, did it subvert expectations in the best of ways. Like, Gunn managed to utilize his talents in a way that I, like for me, really appreciate about his approach to writing stories, and that is his ability to make us laugh with entertaining characters from Adrian's Vigilante, I mean, enough said there, to Eagley, or frickin' Judo Master, or I suppose you could say even giving levity to some of the more serious-toned characters like Harcourt or Myrn from Season 1, yet while also weaving this all in with the most sincere moments at times that would actually get me pretty emotional, you know, and caught off guard from what I expected from Season 1, such as Peacemaker's backstory, his relationship with his father, like, my god, like losing his brother Keith. That episode was so dark, to his friendship with Adebayo. It just felt like such an overall kick-ass cocktail of a show that no one really saw coming, and that's what made it so good. So with that being said, Peacemaker Season 2, for me, watching these 5 episodes doesn't in any way feel different to Season 1 when it comes to what you've come to expect from the show. Like, James Gunn has once again written a very entertaining season, at least from these 5 episodes, for the 11th Street Kids, with a story that feels like a very, I would say, natural continuation of the events from Season 1. And although it's still a story entrenched in a lot of the, you know, chaotic, true-to-team Peacemaker entertainment, and you probably all noticed that from all the trailers, or even the most recent Red Band trailer that dropped, it's still very much so grounded in emotion, rooted in friendship, love, and family, as there's a whole bunch going on this season with where the characters are at. But for those of you who may be hazy on the details, we can't forget that, long story short, Peacemaker and the gang were recruited by Amanda Waller to work on Project Butterfly, which was pretty much an alien invasion, and they succeeded and saved the world. And at the very end of the season, Amanda Waller's daughter, Leota Adebayo, exposed Task Force X's activities to the world and her mother's involvement, and things kind of left off from there. Now, there has also been the continuing story between projects, such as when we saw Waller again in Creature Commandos, of course, as well as John Economos, aka Diebeard, who still worked for Argus, who assisted Waller and Rick Flag Sr. with the series of events that went down in Pakistan. And yes, I realize that I say Waller, it's the British way, I'm not saying Waller. like an American. I get it. But then, of course, we have the events of Superman, where between the end of Peacemaker and Creature Commandos, we saw a very brief cameo of Peacemaker in the movie. But all in all, like the 11th Street kids are all now in a bit of a different place compared to season 1 after the events of Project Butterfly. So the official, again, no spoiler, but official logline describes how in season 2, Peacemaker discovers an alternate world where life is everything he wishes it could be. But this discovery also forces him to face his traumatic past and take the future into his own hands. The hook of the story that engages us, it kind of stems from a place that, as I said, is very natural, even though it's one that leads to all kinds of crazy things that, of course, spiral out of control. So Peacemaker isn't really content with his life, and as we see in the scenes from the trailer, and from what you may remember from season 1, his father had a quantum unfolding chamber that opens a dimensional portal to an extra dimensional space that not only houses all of the Peacemaker gear among other unique things, but also, as we've come to learn from the marketing or just the basic premise of season 2, doorways to other freaking universes. So all without giving away how things get to these points in the trailer, all of that is to say that after saving the world from the butterfly invasion and still being viewed as a bit of a joke despite his feats and personal growth since season 1, seeing a world where there's this other Peacemaker that has a life that more or less reflects everything our DCU Christopher Smith wants, yeah, like the grass is certainly more greener over there, and that props up a story that when you're watching it unfold, you kind of think to yourself, like, yeah, like you can't really blame Peacemaker for his desire to check that world out. And that's obviously going to lead to putting our Peacemaker into some very, very interesting situations. I obviously can't detail what those are, but the very craziness of that is certainly enough to hook you. And so to lean further into all of this, you know, what comes with all of that crazy and entertainment is just how much things get introspective for Peacemaker. Again, I loved his development in season 1, the flashbacks, the friendships with the 11th Street kids, but going on this new journey makes things very difficult for him to navigate, as you can imagine, and it would screw with your head in more ways than one, and that's the juicy character exploration that we love in this show, as that's what makes this show so attractive, because it's the best of both worlds. And that is like crazy, absolute nuts shit that happens, and my god, is there a lot of that in these first 5 episodes. But then there's really the whole, you know, really compelling character journey of it all that, as per Gunn's most important ingredient that he's discussed many times, is just crucial to storytelling, that you have to care about the character and the stakes with what you're watching. And so things are very emotionally grounded again this season. Now, one of the things that I try and think about when making no spoilery reviews like this is like, what would I want to know? So I guess this would take me to the kind of whole DCU sticker that we can now smack onto the show. So what can I vaguely discuss there? Well, it most certainly takes place after the events of Superman, as we've already come to learn publicly from James Gunn and in the trailers, but they do make that clear. Like, we have the Justice Gang conducting an interview with Peacemaker, which, you know, doesn't exactly help his state of mind. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, from that alone, yeah, it really does feel as though it's in the DCU compared to season 1 at the time being in the DCEU, especially when you see scenes like this play out. I will say that the way the show addresses a universe change was interesting. It wasn't quite what I expected, but when it comes to the whole, okay, Peacemaker is now canon to the DCU, and previously it was in the DCEU, how do they deal with that, or really address that, rather? Well, quite swiftly, but also in a way that just totally blends in, and it's also pretty cool to see. But I'm going to have to be pretty tight-lipped about that. Now, as for people who may wonder if Season 2, now it's in the DCU, pushes forward any form of what an overarching story could be in the DCU. Like, does it do anything like that? And so far, from what I've seen, all while it's very much so owning the fact that it is in the DCU, I wouldn't say that there's been anything in your face, blatantly set up, but nor would I really expect it to. Like, this is still Peacemaker Season 2, which is about Peacemaker and what comes next for him. But having said that, at the Peacemaker Season 2 premiere, Jennifer Holland said, there are definitely some things that happen in this season that set up some things for the future of the DCU. I think everyone will have to tune in. So I think those things, which may or may not be larger in terms of the DCU of it all scope, could perhaps arrive in the final 3 episodes. There's also Jennifer Holland, when being asked by CBR, like, why stop at 5 episodes for the screeners? What do I have to look forward to in 6, 7, and 8? She said, I think the reason is the thing we can't tell you. There is some crazy stuff. I will say that my 2 favorite episodes are 6 and 8. There's some amazing stuff that happens in those episodes. And guess what? I haven't seen 6 and 8. So I do want people to bear that in mind as well. But again, at the same time, this is a story about Peacemaker. It's not a massive event thing that's meant to, announce Necron by episode 1, minute 41. I wouldn't go into it being like, oh my god, it's in the DCU now, we're about to get freaking anti-monitor teasers. But one more thing I will say on this subject is, while there isn't anything in your face obvious in the first 5 episodes, then again, there is a hint of some things that I have been intrigued about from watching those episodes that I think could be setting things up in the background a smidge. And I guess I'm just going to have to get to that in the breakdowns, in the episode breakdowns, and what I think that they could be doing there. Now, as for other things, I would say that there's some things like references to Creature Commandos, Superman, and even other cool things. There's also a couple of Easter eggs that I spotted just, roughly watching it that I think, of course, we'd come to expect in a show like this, especially when it comes to getting into other freaking worlds. But again, we're going to have to dive more into that when we actually do the recap reviews and breakdowns. Now, as for the characters and cast, like John Cena, he's great. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised in season 1 by his acting chops, but Gunn was right in saying that things have just gone even better here with the things that he's dealing with this season. There's just a lot of considerations that are, existential to Peacemaker's life and that demand moments where you just kind of drop the joke and get a lot more serious. And things do, and John Cena continues to prove just how multi-talented he is. Now, another huge addition to this season, especially for those who have already been following the DCU, is how we've now got Frank Grillo reprising his role as Rick Flag Sr. We've so far seen him in Creature Commandos, where he played a really big role in that show, and then we actually saw him in live action for the first time in Superman. But now, in Peacemaker Season 2, he's got a lot more to play with. And as we know from the trailers, since Rick Flag Sr. is now the head of Argus, this has allowed him to learn the details of what happened with Rick Flag Jr.'s death in Corto Maltese, and just who killed him. And that might make him feel a certain way. So in the official trailer, we're teased with Adebayo saying to Peacemaker outside his house that he's being monitored by Rick Flag Sr. And let's just also say that Argus are interested in the dimensional things going down in Peacemaker's house. Especially as, after all, there was a dimensional frickin' rift in Metropolis that pretty much tore apart half of the city. And from what I've seen so far in the 5 episodes, it feels really good to see Rick Flag Sr. in live action, more so than what we saw him in Superman, of course. It's a cool situation as an audience member as well, because I like both characters of Peacemaker and Rick Flag Sr. So seeing Rick Flag Sr. this season going after Peacemaker, it definitely throws a bit of a spanner in the works, you could say, because you also completely understand the where Rick Flag Sr. is coming from. Now, as for Harcourt, she is completely messed up this year. As they got across in the main trailer, after the events of Season 1 and Adebayo exposing Task Force X, Waller is kind of taking things out on her, and she's struggling to get a job anywhere. The trailers also continue to tease the romance that was touched on towards the end of Season 1 between Peacemaker and Harcourt, with Adebayo knowing that Peacemaker really likes her. And all this certainly affects a lot of things this season. I mean, Gunn even said that a part of this is a bit of a love story. And there's really cool things that they do with Harcourt's past that I didn't see coming. But that's all I can really tease about that. But yeah, it was pretty damn cool. I'm also really just impressed with Jennifer Holland's performance on the show. And this year, she also steps things up a notch in many scenes, and also many crazy action scenes, just given what the character was dealing with. And then, of course, there's Adebayo, who's still very much so the glue that holds the 11th Street kids together. Like, not only is she hilarious, but she's as endearing as ever. Like, her story is in a bit of an interesting place, like Harcourt's, due to exposing her mother's Task Force X antics. And you may already know from what Gunn has publicly revealed at Comic-Con that, Adebayo is attempting to start a bit of a mercenary service, and, that endeavor is not going so great. But one of the best qualities of Adebayo is her optimism, even in the wake of struggle. So I think you guys will absolutely love Daniel Brooks again this season, just as much, if not more, than the first season. Now, Economos is working at Argus, as we know, so as I've talked about before in my trailer breakdowns, that puts him in a bit of a tight spot, but also a useful one. And it leads to so many funny parts in the first 5 episodes, from his interactions with the brilliant Tim Meadows, who plays Langston Fleury. I mean, he just gets more and more funny as he goes along, so watch out for him. But then we have Nutley's Judo Master return, and Judo Master, I'll say, will just never really get old. But then we also have Sol Rodriguez playing Sasha Bordeux. Now, she's another very welcome addition to the cast, working under Rick Flag Sr., and as Gunn puts it, she has a bit of a metahuman tinge, especially if you're familiar with her in the comics, and she's what I would describe as, on point the most when it comes to seeing through Flag's Argus orders. Now, as for Eagley, and yes, I'm labeling him on his own here because he's even more of a character this season. Now, this has already been revealed as well. We have Michael Rooker playing Red Saint Wild this season, the world's foremost eagle hunter. And so basically, Eagley has his own main antagonist, and that's just a little side thing that's introduced that is a part of that, as I said earlier, crazy, just chaotic shit that happens this season, but it's just oh so good. I mean, in fact, it's actually pretty nuts what they give to Eagley this year, but rightfully so. Just given how popular he was in season 1, it is cool to see him featured even more like this. So again, it just does feel like Gunn has doubled down on things like this that people loved. And I'll also just say that Eagley is insanely badass. Like, some of the fight scenes you'll see with him are pretty crazy. And on that note, quickly, I'll just say that all round, the action is pretty great. I've always liked, even in season 1, how it's filmed so viscerally. Like, if you remember the fights with Judo Master, like, if you get a spin and a slam down to the ground, the camera will just be following it, caught right up into the thick of the action. That can also just lead to a funny moment or two with just how abrupt those moments can be. And it's safe to say there's a whole bunch of that this season. Now, as for Vigilante, well, he is just still Vigilante, and that is all I need to say. Now, as for some other characters, as we saw in the trailer, we got glimpses of an alternate-looking white dragon suit and someone else, so I won't say much about this, but let's just say going into a doppelgangery kind of universe will for sure mean not only a different Peacemaker that shakes things up, but other characters as well, which may not be the way you know them from season 1. Speaking of the cast and new cast, this means a new opening credit sequence. Now, understandably, I'm not allowed to give details away about the dance sequence in the opening credits, but I will say out of the gate that it is a new great version for the show. Now, having said that, I think because the first season's opening credits was just even this viral thing, I would say, with how iconic it was, I'd say that I still prefer that one if I just were to rank things, but by no means do I want that to come across like this new opening credits doesn't compete or anything. But to be fair, as Gunn said, they weren't even trying to top themselves. It's just that, understandably, with quite a few cast members from Mern to others not being around anymore from season 1, well, you kind of need to redo the dance again. Now, arguably, they could have used the same song from season 1 and maintained that through all of the potential seasons of Peacemaker, but I actually prefer it this way. And it's a great song choice for this one as well, and it has been revealed out there, but I won't reveal it here. And it feels more unique just doing something different, each and every, again, possible season. So fair play to giving us something fresh while filming a new and very entertaining opening credits. Now, as for the music, I mean, mean, this is Peacemaker, so get ready for a whole bunch more needle drop moments. I can't exactly give away those moments or the songs in what will ultimately be a pretty kick-ass playlist, but just know that Gunn has fitted this with a great soundtrack, and the songs drop at just the right moment, whether that's like a, you know, montagey moment or a track that fits a fight scene just fantastically, or just one of those moments where the characters are kind of sitting with something where the music just really enhances the scene so well. Now, the tone of the show is, as ever, absolutely R-rated. Like, if anything, it feels like they take it even further this season at points, but not in a way that's like, you know, shock factor for shock factor's sake. It's still like in the wheelhouse of Peacemaker humor. And that's also just something I really appreciate about, I guess, you know, the DCU's overall approach with its projects. Like, this is all canon to Superman, where you wouldn't see that kind of stuff. But Peacemaker, which is aimed at an adult audience, won't hold back on all the more edgier jokes to violence and language, among other things. Now, importantly here, this might not be everyone's cup of tea, but then again, like, you should already know what you've signed up for with Peacemaker at this point. Like, I don't see why anyone would expect anything different with a new season being in the DCU. So this is absolutely more of, if you like the humor of season 1, you're gonna get a lot more of that in season 2. Now, after watching the 5 episodes and just looking at them as a collective, it's a bit of a weird one to talk about, because I think watching them weekly would definitely leave you wanting more, whereas I've just kind of, you know, stormed through them. So if I was to imagine a weekly drop, you'll be for sure looking forward to seeing what happens next. And, you know, I felt really engrossed in all the episodes. The pacing of things doesn't leave you feeling bored at any point, because there's always something going on, as we got into earlier, whether that's something that'll make you laugh, something that is cool, something that is both of those, to then just being offered something on the more emotional level. Now, the episode lengths are pretty similar to season 1, I would say. Like, the shortest runtime out of the 5 episodes I saw was 37 minutes, and then the longest was 48 minutes. So they vary between those 2 times, and that's with credits included, by the way. So if anything, I just wish they were a smidge longer, or, you know, there were 12 episodes instead of 8, but that's just out of me wanting to spend more time with these characters. But overall, like, the episode's pacing and the way things play out like that from episode to episode feels incredibly similar to watching episodes of season 1. So all in all, guys, there's not really a whole bunch more I can say without obviously talking in too much detail about the show. So I guess I just want to finish off by saying that Peacemaker Season 2 is something that I think will please a lot of viewers who enjoyed Season 1. Like, Gunn doubles down on the things that people loved about Season 1. We're introduced to a freaking interdimensional story that sends things to even crazier places. The 11th Street kids and their friendship is still at the heart of things, and supposedly, as I mentioned earlier from Jennifer Holland, things will get even crazier in the last 3 episodes. So God knows what's coming our way. But I hope this review gave you a good vibe, as comprehensive as can be, no spoilers vibe, and first impressions of Peacemaker Season 2. I don't want to, gas it up to crazy expectations, but, you know, just all, in conclusion, like, it's another season of Peacemaker that's an absolute blast. The only people I can't imagine having a good time with Season 2 is just the people that aren't into this kind of thing anyway. But as I mentioned earlier, you should know what Peacemaker is about by now. So, like, going in and watching this expecting anything different would be a bit odd. Thinking like, oh yeah, this is bad. Like, you know, well, did you watch season 1? It's that kind of feeling. So let me know what you thought of what I had to say. Are you looking forward to season 2? Let me know your theories as well, because this could be interesting to see what some of you are thinking about what could go down, comparing it to what I've already seen. But don't forget, we will be doing episode breakdowns, getting into the details of what we see in the episodes, going down to the Easter egg level of things and stuff like that. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on the recaps and reviews. If you made it to this point of the video, I would deeply appreciate a like. Help this video get out there to even more fans of DC. But I think I'm going to love you and leave you now, guys. So again, just thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you, fellow 11th Street kids, in the next video. Goodbye.